kind of want to sing another REM. No, I want to sing Ahead by a Century. That's by the Tragically Hip. Ah, here it is. Good, good, good. All right, here we go. First thing we climb a tree, and maybe then we talk, or sit silently and listen to our thoughts, illusions of someday, cast in a golden light, no dress rehearsal, this is our life. And that's where the hornet stung me, and I had a feverish dream with revenge and doubt. Tonight we smoke them out. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. There in the morning shroud, and then the day began. I tilted your cloud, you tilted my hand. Rain falls in real time, and rain fell through the night. No dress rehearsal, this is our life. And that's when the hornet stung me, and I had a serious dreams with revenge and doubt. Tonight we smoke them out. You are ahead by a century. 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 And disappointing you is getting me down.
No, you want to drop in and collaborate. What does that mean? Am I supposed to knock in? Ask to join this.
High Theater Drive.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. That is good. Dihydrogen oxide. Very, very good. Dihydrogen oxide.
Squirrels. Tune up the mic a little bit here. All right, there we go, I think. I really need to get a pair of headphones. All right, it seems to be going here. Good evening. This is a secret stream. I call them surprise stream, secret stream. I wasn't going to stream today. I didn't put it on the schedule, and but something I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the census. Okay, it's not as boring as it sounds, but in my title I talk about. Well, let me. It's August 20th, 2024. This is Double Triple Stream on Twitch, and my name is Ron. I live in New Hampshire, in a rural area, surrounded by forests and wild animals and stuff. And I stream about science and technology and civics, which kind of what I'm going to stream about tonight, and science too also tonight, and a lot of different stuff. And I'm vegan, so I talk about that every once in a while. So they call it a variety streamer. I've only been streaming for about a month now, so I'm still trying to learn how to do this stuff. So if you're new, you just discovered this stream, that's kind of what's going on. So yeah, the title of my stream has to do with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, U.S. Constitution. And some of you may have noticed that. The word involuntary servitude is in the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. And the 13th Amendment was one of the Reconstruction Amendments. And so it was the reason why the U.S. fought the Civil War was to free the slaves. I'm sure you should be familiar with, right? We fought a Civil War in the middle of the 19th century, leading up to many hundreds of years leading up to that point, to stop the injustice of slavery in the U.S. And after the North won, it was the North and the South. The South wanted slavery. The North didn't want slavery. And so the North won. And the result of that was, one of the results of that was the 13th Amendment. There's also a 14th and 15th Amendment, which are part of the three amendments of the Reconstruction amendments, they call them. Reconstruction was the period after the Civil War. They call it Reconstruction because it had multiple meanings actually, but it meant that reconstructing all the damage that was done from the war, but also to reconstruct the Union, to bring the states that had left the Union back into the Union. There was a process for doing that. The 13th Amendment, let's see if I can find a copy of that and actually bring that up here. Okay, here's the Wikipedia article on it, so they should have a copy of the amendment here, and we'll read it. And it had to do with freeing the slaves, but there was also another part of it. So let me read that here. Okay, here it is. Now let's see if I can do my OBS magic here and bring that up. Oh, it looks like it's right there. Okay, let me see. Let me hit it here. Look at that. All right. Okay, I should have got a content warning on that picture. Okay, there's a content warning. There's a picture in this article that might be disturbing to some. The text of the amendment is that it says that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime wherein the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Notice how they use the word "there." So that's interesting that they're still using. Today we use the word United States. Just a kind of a side thing here. We use the United States as a singular noun. The United States. Like in a singular way, like it, say it, United States, it. But here they said there, meaning the states individually. So That's kind of interesting that they use that language in there. At the very beginning, it was the 13 colonies, and the colonies were considered separate countries, and then we had the Articles of Confederation, and then later on the Constitution, and it was treated more like a single country. But it's interesting that they use the word there to talk about the United States. So, a lot of amendments have this part in it. The Constitution shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So, the interesting thing here is that they mention slavery, but they also mention involuntary servitude. So they didn't want any loopholes. First of all, on the slavery, they didn't want some legal loophole where somebody is essentially a slave, even though they're not a chattel slave. So they put involuntary servitude there, and that's come up several times during the life of this amendment, since this amendment came into effect. Okay, here's that picture. So it's just how horrible slavery was in the U.S. It's a slave who was whipped when he was a slave. So there have been several cases about this. I don't think I'll go into the details about that, but it's mostly been applied to slavery, but it's been applied to a lot of different things. And some questions that have come up have been about like military draft. Is that involuntary slavery or involuntary servitude? And of course it is. I mean, by definition it is. But the Supreme Court, in one of these cases that they had, they said, oh, that's an exception. There are exceptions, right? And they said, in one of the cases, they said, well, in memorial, there are time immemorial, there have been exceptions that will apply. And, just like a lot of the opinions of the court, they just make stuff up, and that's what they did there. So the exception in the actual amendment itself here, it has an exception, right? It says, except as punishment for a crime when a party is duly convicted. So, there are still labor prisons, in the United States and some states. Most states, I don't think have that anymore, but that's an exception, and they wrote an exception into it. So that should be, if they when they wrote the amendment, if they knew there was going to be, Ducky Snow, Stephen, thank you for rating. That was very nice. I was fantastic. All right. Yeah, I was going to stream a lot earlier, and there were folks on who were streaming that I wanted to watch instead, so I kind of waited. I was going to stream earlier before even noon. I was going to start this stream, and there were folks out there that I wanted to watch, so I didn't start. But thank you for the raid, Stephen. That's fantastic. Let me give Stephen a shout out here. I've got a command that does that, and I've actually got to use it a few times, so let me see if I can make that work here. Here we go. Shout out. Yeah, everybody give Big Ducky Snow a follow. I think everybody here probably already follows him. I don't know how many. I didn't look at how many viewers I had before you did the raid. I wasn't looking. So. But thank you for rating, Stephen. I was watching most of your stream. I lurked a little bit early on, and then typed in chat a little bit there, but it looked like you were having a good karaoke session there. Ducky, I didn't get to hear the nice things you were about to say about me. I'm trying to read the chat here. For those of you who are watching this as a VOD on YouTube or something, on Twitch they have a place where people who are watching the stream live can type in into a chat, and then I can respond to that. And what happened here is Big Ducky Snow is a streamer, another streamer on Twitch, and he did what's called a raid. He asked his viewers to come watch my stream, which was very nice of him. Thank you, Stephen. Let's see. I was one of the ducking best karaoke streams ever. I exceeded my expectations with the songs I had studied for the stream. Cool. Yeah, I was hearing. I heard most of them. I was kind of listening in the background. I've been preparing food and doing stuff, other stuff, but listening to it in the background. So I wasn't able to actually, type into it very much during the stream. Very cool. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I use one of Big Ducky Snow's, Stephen's karaoke songs in my stream. When at the beginning of the stream, I play that opening. Here, I'll play it really quick here, just so you can hear it again, in case folks have not heard it before.
I kind of want to sing
here.
another REM. I want to sing Ahead by a Century. That's by the Tragically Hip.
Is it playing?
Here it is. Good. All right, here we go.
I'll just play a little bit of it.
First thing we climb a tree, and maybe then we talk, or sit silently and listen to our thoughts, illusions of someday, cast in a golden light, no dress rehearsal, this is our life. And that's where the hornet stung me, and I had a feverish dream with revenge and doubt. Tonight we smoke them out. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. There in the morning shroud, and then the day began. I tilted your cloud, you tilted my hand. Rain falls in real time, and rain fell through the night. No dress rehearsal.
Okay, so that was a sample of the thing, of the song that he had done. He did this was a while back. He did this as one of his karaoke songs, and I thought he did such a really good job on it. I thought, that would be a good song, and the lyrics and stuff like that kind of tied into what I do. I'm kind of future focused and thinking about science and science fiction and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that would be really cool, and I asked him, and he said sure. He let me use it that way. So thanks again, Stephen. That's really cool. You guys had a karaoke stream again, and what we were talking about was I'll tell you what got me going on this whole thing, just so you know what I'm streaming about here. I got this thing in the mail. It's let's census. Can you see that? Oops. See this? It's the census. Right? And they sent this thing to me. First they sent some postcards or something. Here's one of them, and they sent this stuff to me. And normally in the census, it's a real simple thing. They just, who are you, where you live, but this one apparently I was quote unquote randomly selected to do an in-depth thing. They call it the American Community Survey. Oh, I just put my address out there. Okay, everybody knows where I live anyway. So it's, look at the size of this booklet here. Look at this. It's 48 pages of stuff to fill out. Look at this. All these, and it's not like, it's really complicated stuff, It's like worse than a tax form, I think. So I got it, and first they sent a little thing and said, "Oh, we're going to send you a little survey." And I said, "Okay, and it's not." And also, this is supposed to be done once a year, And it was very confusing because they try to do it at the turn of each decade, like 2020, 2030, 2040, like that. But this one was, we're in the middle of the decade, so it was kind of weird. And so I got this thing, and I thought, God, I'm not gonna. Yeah, that's a lot of work to do all that. And then before that, I got this thing here. You've probably heard of these guys. This is Nielsen. See that? Nielsen. And they sent me. They do surveys too. They do surveys for like TV stations and things like that. And so, hang on just a second here. I got to read something here. I got to type something in here real quick. I can't multitask very easy because I'm getting too old to do that. So I'm going to type something in here really quick here. And all right. So I got this thing from Nielsen. This came actually before the census thing. And I've participated in Nielsen surveys before. You may have done this before, mostly for TV and radio. It says, on this letter, it says, "Have you ever wondered how radio, television, and other media outlets decide what shows you broadcast or cancel? And in part, those decisions are made by feedback from people like you. And here's the thing, So I've participated in one for TV. I participated in one for radio once, where they give you a little. They used to do it with little booklets. Now they do it online, I guess. But they sent me this, and they sent $1 in the envelope with the survey, and said, "Here, we'll just as a token, thank you or whatever, we'll give you $1 for filling this thing out." And I didn't bother filling it out. I'm kind of mad at mainstream media right now, so I didn't bother with it. But and so, and then I get this thing from, the census, which is like huge. This little thing from Nielsen was just a few questions. This is this huge thing, almost 50 pages of stuff. And they didn't give me $1. They didn't send me any money at all. And so I thought, well, that's, they're taking my labor, right? To fill this whole thing out is like using my labor to do something, And so I thought well, there's an involuntary servitude thing, which was originally done, of course, for slavery, but has been applied to other things. But for the most part, the courts have not held that up. And there's some things that you have to do, like jury duty, but that's in the Constitution. They talk about juries and stuff in the Constitution. So. And also jury duty, in most cases it's going to be, handled by each state. right? It would only be federal cases where it would be the federal government that would do that. But for the most part, the Supreme Court has said that they don't want to apply the involuntary servitude to other things, but they have applied it to other things. And there was one case I was reading about where they had sailors who signed up. This was back at the end of the 19th century, so right around the turn of the century, between 19th and 20th century. And some sailors had signed up to go on board a ship, and they have to sign a contract and to say that they're going to be with the ship, for the whole duration, And this particular contract actually had a loophole in it, so that the guy, they call him the master of the ship, which that's already a problem, right? They call him master. And they said the master of the ship has the ability to extend the voyage if he wanted to, And it was like a loophole in the contract that they signed. So anyway, these guys, they got on the ship, and the guy was a real mean captain or whatever, and so they didn't want to stay with the ship anymore, and he left. And they actually had a law in Oregon, I think it was, that said that the marshal could go out and arrest them for not working. Can you imagine that? We got all kinds of laws now that protected against that, but this was back before the 20th century, right before the 20th century. Anyway, they said, hey, this is involuntary servitude. Even though we signed the contract, it had this stuff in it, and blah blah blah. And they put out their legal rationale for it, and the Supreme Court said no, no. You signed the contract. You're essentially their slave. So the Supreme Court historically has been against applying that involuntary servitude thing to other stuff, and like the military draft, and their rationale for saying it is, it's traditional. And they even I think there was a case involving the internment of the Japanese too, where this came up. There's just been, and they've almost always said no, that's not involuntary servitude. So they call it narrow interpretation. They've narrowly interpreted what that means. So so that wouldn't be. I don't think if I went to the Supreme Court on this and said, hey, forcing me to fill out this, taking 2 hours, 3 hours, however long it's going to take me to fill out this form, they're going to say no, that's not involuntary servitude. And also the census is part of the Constitution too. That was written into the Constitution. They didn't call it census; they called it enumeration. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me bring this up so you can see what we were talking about here in terms of the. So this is the 13th Amendment. I talked a little bit about that before you folks rated in the raters who got here. This was the 13th Amendment was the first amendment that came of the three Reconstruction amendments that came after the Civil War. Right, we had fought a civil war in the United States over slavery. The North won, got rid of slavery. This was the thing that did it. This 13th Amendment to the Constitution is what made slavery illegal in the United States. And it says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime wherein the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or in any place subject to their jurisdiction. And in Section 2 just says the Congress can enforce the law. So that's what we're talking about. Whether this part of involuntary servitude applies to other things. And I think they were thinking, well, the reason why they said involuntary servitude there is so that the South couldn't turn around and make loopholes to slavery. This outlaws chattel slavery where somebody owns somebody else, but this kind of eliminates the loopholes that they could have gotten into it. But they ended up doing loopholes anyway with Jim Crow and all that kind of stuff. And interestingly, the later cases of this, there was a case in the 60s on this where it wasn't the core of the justification of the opinion, but the Supreme Court said that businesses, we had the civil rights movement, and one of the outcome or results of that was that people could have accommodations regardless of their race, because they used to forbid people from going into businesses and stuff just because they were black. They'd say no blacks, and all that kind of stuff. And so they passed the civil rights laws that prohibited that. And there was a case where I think it was some black people who were denied some accommodations somewhere, and this was one of the rationales, was this involuntary servitude thing, saying that it's a restriction of rights. That's what slavery is, right? That's the ultimate, or the worst form of the restriction of rights, right? Is slavery, is taking all the rights that somebody has. So anyway, that was the involuntary servitude was used in that particular case. But I wanted to look up here about the census, because that is in the I'm going to transition to my mug here while I look this up, so I don't do something incorrectly. I'm going to try to find an actual copy of the Constitution, and we'll go through it. Or maybe I can just do it this way. Maybe I can just find the article on the census in the Wikipedia where they talk about it. Maybe we'll do that first. I'll just do census. U.S. Let's see if that'll find it. They're talking about there it is. Okay. Make sure there's nothing in here. Okay. So this is a Wikipedia page on the census. Yeah, see, it says the U.S. Census is a census that is legally mandated by the Constitution of the United States. It takes place every 10 years. I think that's what I was talking about. But we're in the middle, so this is, they can't say this is really, it's the Census Bureau, but and all this stuff that I got, it says, it says you legally must respond, and all these threats, I don't know what. Later on, I read that in some years, up to a third of the people don't even bother responding to the census. So, let's see. Let me catch up on chat here before we get into this article. Interesting. I got to take off and join my parents for dinner now. Thanks for saying such nice things about me, Debbie. Have a sweet rest of your stream and day, and I shall be lurking and checking out the bod. Oh, great. Thank you, Big Ducky Snow. Thank you for those kind words. Peace, love, and light to all. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. So yes, I don't really understand why I got this in the middle of this decade, because it's supposed to be the 2020, 2030, 2040, like that. And legal basis, here it is. Okay, so this is the part of the Constitution that gives the way that our country works, everything. This is a civics thing, right? I'm talking about civics. The way our whole country works and everything works is, the assumption is that the government doesn't have any power to do anything, and the people have the power. And then the Constitution lays up a structure whereby the Congress and the government has some power to do some certain things. And then there's an actual amendment in the Bill of Rights that says any power that's not in the Constitution, specifically that goes to the government of the United States, belongs to the people or to the states. So they can't do anything unless there is something in the Constitution that allows them to do it. It has to specifically say, yeah, Congress can do this, the United States can do this, and this is what does in Article 2 section or Article 1, which is the article about Congress, in Section 2 of that part of the Constitution. It says representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers. So, there are two houses of the government. There's the House of Representatives and there's the Senate. The House of Representatives is, we have representatives that are proportional to the number of people in the United States or in each state. And the Senate is 2 per state. It's not proportional to the number of people. But representatives, and so how do you know? How do you know how many people there are? Well, they put a provision in the Constitution so they can figure that out. So Congress or the United States has the power to actually go and count people. And that's where the census came from. It says the actual enumeration, meaning counting of people, right, shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress, which is a long time ago, and within every subsequent term of 10 years. So that's why it's every 10 years. That's why it's every decade. Right, and then another one of the 14th Amendment, which was another one of the Reconstruction Amendments after the Civil War. There's a section of that refers to that too. And it talks about respective numbers of the several states. And that's a little bit more involved. Has to do with, that's more technical. So that's how they have the legal basis to do that. But I don't read enumeration, having the power to enumeration to how they convert that into having this big form, asking all these different questions about, where I went to kindergarten, and I'm not kidding. Here, look at. Is this autofocus here? Can you read that? I don't know. Look, they're asking about school and kindergarten and it's all kind of, how much money I make and how, just all kinds of stuff, I mean, they know that anyway, right? I get my Social Security, so they know how much money I make. Anyway, but it's kind of weird that I have to fill that all out. So that's why I put that in my title. I thought that would be a provocative title to put involuntary servitude in there. I thought that might get some folks to click on that to see what that was about. But of course, it's not slavery. It's not anything close to slavery at all, right? But it possibly with the right Supreme Court, somebody could put that. It could say that. Could say, they. If somebody really didn't want to, to do this and thought this was wrong, that the government was making them, spend their afternoon filling out a form. Yeah, it is crazy. Peekaboo Draw says it's crazy how much info they want. Yeah, that's that, and it has nothing to do with counting. Right, that has nothing to do with counting people. So this is really separate from the Senate, from the census. It seems like it's just something that, Congress wanted some information and thought that the census department would be a good place to enlist to do that. I don't know, but yeah, I think that would be with the right composition of the Supreme Court. I think a case could be made to use that section of the 13th Amendment to say, Congress or even the states can't make laws that force people to perform work for them without compensation. I would think so. So that was. I didn't want to get that off. The last one I got said I had to have it filled out by the 23rd. I think they said, or 25th or something like that. 23rd. So I'll have to get it. I guess I'll have to get it in the mail. I don't want to make a case out of it. I don't want to go through the hassle. So I'll fill in the minimum amount I can, I guess. Maybe I'll fill in my name and a few other things and just drop it in the mail. And hopefully they won't bug me after that. Hopefully it'll, some bureaucrat somewhere will say, oh yeah, Ron responded. Check, okay. And then they'll just forget about it, So I guess that's what I'll do. But I thought that was kind of, a weird thing. Anyway, I wanted to stream about that. I had some other things I wanted to talk about. On a totally other different topic. Okay, different topic. Did you know that there's an article in Wikipedia called Streamer Discharge? Streamer Discharge. No comment on that one, but there's an article in the Wikipedia called that. We were talking about X-rays, or some of my other streams we were talking about radiation stuff. What does that mean? Yeah, I know, it's funny. Okay, I'll show you. I guess that's not fair, just throwing that out there, is it? All right, let me type it into Wikipedia here. Streamer. Oh wait, I'm typing it into the wrong thing. I'm typing it into the URL section here. All right, let's go to Wikipedia and type it into their search. Streamer discharge. All right. Sure, there's nothing weird in there. Okay. So here's the article. It's about streamers are part of static electricity discharge, or just electric discharge into air or into any fluid, liquid, gas. They call it a streamer. And discharge means that it's discharging the electrical, the charge into the air, and it does it in this weird way. And I actually have over here, I have a, since we're talking about it, one of these days I'll do a, this is a what they call a what do they call this? A plasma globe. And all of this stuff is plasma. Those sparks and all that, it's plasma. And you may have seen these before, but when I plug this in, there's a gas inside this glass bowl here, and it puts a really high charge in here. I don't know, tens of thousands of volts, and then the special gas that's inside here allows the ions of the gas to, the molecules of the gas to ionize due to the electric charge, and it makes pretty stuff. And then when you touch it, it does stuff. And you've probably seen, I'm sure you've seen these before, but maybe one day I'll do that. That one's kind of not working too well. I got it really cheap at a yard sale or something. So one day I'll use it, but it's not totally up to where it should be, but it's still pretty cool looking. I'll have to do that at night, so it'll look really nice. But anyway, that's what this is. It's taking really high charges, high electrical potential in an electrode here, and it just goes off like that. They call that a Tesla coil. And so the discharge, those little root, things are called. E-Room has a little one. Oh, does he? Oh, cool. Yeah, they are cool. Yeah. That's what. But I when I found, of course, I thought streamer has a dual meaning, right? And so if I mentioned it on Twitch, everybody, it would be. Just there are lots of places you can go with that one. Some of which are probably not safe for work. All right, so that was one thing I wanted to talk about. Let's see what else I've got here. Here, I'll leave this up here. There we go. I'll put this one up there. Oh, that's not very big. Okay, but it looks cool anyway. There was something else I want. Oh yeah, X-rays. Oh, limelight. I guess that's kind of related to. That was another one too. That might be a little bit more complicated. Are you guys ready for some sciencey stuff? Some real complicated sciencey stuff. I'll try to make. I was concerned. Yeah, I thought you meant us. Yeah. Your peekaboo draws in chat here. Who was concerned about my mentioning streamer discharge. Yeah. Yeah, it could also mean, right, banning a streamer or something, right? That's another interpretation you could have of it. So it's just kind of funny. Right, I could talk about limelights, which also relates to the word limelight. Anytime something is in the limelight means it's a lot of people are watching it, which is kind of something that streamers do too, right? They're in the limelight, some of them. The ones who have a lot of viewers are in the limelight. So I could talk about that, but it's more sciencey, it's more in depth, but I think I could explain it. Would you like to hear about that? I can explain it. Go up here and type in limelight. These were just some things that were kind of left over for the last few streams that I did that I didn't really include in my other streams, but I thought might be interesting. So limelight, this is where the word comes from. When you hear the word, something is in the limelight, I think you know what that means, right? It means that there's a focus on it. There's a lot of people watching it, whatever. Oh, we have a first-time chatter. SYK himself. Psych himself. Okay, I get it. Hello. Hi, Psych himself. How are you? We're talking about the science behind limelights, and also the etymology behind the word limelight. So we hear the word today. In the limelight means in the public, viewed by the public, or something. Just a lot of focus on something. But there was a thing called a limelight. Before there was any kind of electric lamp at all, there was this thing called a limelight. This was back in the 1800s, and so they had to figure out a way. And if all you have is just candles and do you know the stream scribe? Are you talking to me, Peekaboo? I'm talking to the chat here. Do you know this? Yes. Oh, the stream scribe. It sounds familiar. I don't remember. Do they do science streams too? We did some streams before. I did some streams about the invention of the light bulb, and I actually did oh, okay, he's a science streamer. Cool. I'll have to check that out and see what he's got there. It might be interesting to see what his streams are about and follow him. So some of the streams that we did. Oh, he does calligraphy, but he's very into etymology. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I'm into etymology too, a little bit. I mean, I like whenever I look up a word that I'm unfamiliar with, I try to look at. I have a really good dictionary that includes the etymology of the word. A short little thing about it. So I'll read that also. I won't just read the definition or whatever. I'll read the whole, where the word first came from and all that, because that can give you clues to the meaning of the word, a little bit more, if you know where the word came from. But anyway, limelight, yeah. So we did some streams on the invention of the light bulb, and it uses a process called incandescence. Incandescence is when you heat something up so much that the molecules move around so much that they emit light or emit radiation. When light is radiation, it emits radiation in the visible spectrum where we can see it. That's incandescence. That's how the old style light bulbs work, you know, the kind that look like this. But they have, you know, filaments in them and all that. And we did some experiments on that. I took a wire and heated it up until it glowed and burned up, and did a few other things. Oh, science. Yeah, I follow science. Yeah. Yeah, he does. He just did one. Was it last night? I think he did microscopy. You look through a microscope. I have a microscope, but I got to figure out how to hook it up to the, you know, to the internet, to the cameras and stuff like that. I'll figure it out one of these days. I'm still trying to nail down OBS and some of the basics here. So before there was the incandescent lamp, and by the way, Edison didn't invent the electric lamp. No, he just all he did was take the work that other people had done and market it. He was a good salesman. So he didn't invent the electric light. It was invented before him. But before even the electric light was this thing called the limelight. And it works. Here's a diagram of it. It works by, they take this calcium oxide and they heat it up to incandescence, and they use oxygen and hydrogen so that they can get it really hot. You know, flame, burning, anything that burns uses oxygen and some kind of fuel that oxidizes, that reacts with the oxygen, and that's what makes the flame. It makes the heat and all that. But if you pump in extra oxygen with it, you can get it really, really hot. You can get the flame to burn really intensely. That's what they did with this. They used hydrogen and oxygen, and they fed them into and made a flame, and then they put that flame on calcium oxide, and it glowed. It glowed to incandescence, like I said, with the same way that a light bulb does. But instead of using electricity with electrons going really fast through a filament and heating it up that way, using the electricity, it used just a regular old flame to heat it up. And the thing that was kind of interesting I thought about this was because it uses not only incandescence, but it also uses something called candoluminescence, which is another process. And that's the technical part that I don't know if I can get into that. It's basically it just makes more light. There's more light in there because of this thing called candoluminescence. It causes electrons to not only, the light actually comes from electrons in the molecules, in the atoms. When you heat something up, heat means that you're making the molecules move around a lot. And when the molecules move around, they bump into each other, and that causes the electrons to move in ways that they normally wouldn't move. And that's what makes light. And everything in the universe emits that radiation. Me sitting here emits it, my mouse, everything in the universe emits radiation all the time. It's called black body radiation. And when you heat it up enough and they move really fast and there's a lot of energy in there, then they'll emit in the visible spectrum, and we can see it with our eyes. And I did some experiments where I heated some things up just below that point, before it was visible, and that's called infrared. If it's below the visible spectrum where you can see it, below meaning a lower frequency, it's not, it's a wave, right? It's not wavy as fast. In the visible spectrum, it's wavy really fast, and then below that is the infrared, where it's less wavy, less frequency, or longer wavelength is another way of saying it. And we actually did an experiment on stream with that. You can check out the VODs. I got the VODs on YouTube if you're interested in that stuff. Some of these experiments that we did. And then I used a camera, a camera that could see infrared. Have you ever taken like a remote like this? This is kind of an experiment that you guys can do at home. You take a remote And you might even be able to see it here. And you point it at a camera. And normally this is an infrared remote. If I look at that, I don't see anything when I push it. I don't see anything. But some cameras, and I think this one has that ability. Watch when I push it. There, see that? See it blinking there? Now when I look at that, there's nothing visible. But this camera just happens, the sensor in it just happens to be able to pick up infrared light. And you can see it. And you can try that at home. You know, just take any remote that you have and try pointing it at a camera, and you'll see that you'll be able to see it. Because if your camera has that ability, and most of them do, you know, they overlap a little bit. So that's what we did. And anyway, back to the limelight. Incandescence is that process where the molecules move really fast and they bump into each other and end up emitting. They call it electromagnetic radiation. That's the technical term for it. And it just means that it's electrons or any charge. It doesn't have to be electrons, but any particle with a charge that changes its direction or its speed will make an electromagnetic wave. Will make a wave like that. And when it's fast enough, then we can see it. And so this limelight thing, the idea was that they would use this heat to heat up this calcium oxide, and it would get to incandescence and emit light just like anything else that you heat up. You take a piece of steel, anything that you heat up enough, it will glow red, and then you heat it up more and it glows yellow. You heat it up more and it glows white. And that's what they do with this. They heat it up really hot and it glows white. But it glows even lighter or even brighter than what you would expect from the incandescence. And they figured out that it's this process called candoluminescence, which causes the electrons to actually in their, they call it an orbit, but it's in the shells that they are. You know the old model of the atom where you got a nucleus and then you have electrons going around it. Well, the electrons like to stay certain distances from the nucleus. But sometimes if they get enough energy, they can bounce up to a higher orbital, they call it, or shell. And then when they fall back down, they release energy in as electromagnetic radiation, and that can be very energetic. It can be have much more energy than just normal incandescence, and that's what happens with the limelight. So I thought that was kind of interesting, so I wanted to mention that a little bit. And look, they talk about some of the temperatures here that they get it up to 2,572 C, which is 4,600 Fahrenheit. So, was there anything else that I wanted to mention here? Yeah, they just this, you know how Wikipedia is. They just got all kinds of information in it. Oh, this article isn't that long, but they do mention that word candoluminescence, and that article has a whole bunch of stuff in it. Let me go to that article. Okay, this is just a bunch of. It's just a wall of text. And it's kind of complicated. Look, I'll read this a little bit just so you can see. When the fuel in the flame combusts, the energy released by the combustion process is deposited in the combustion products, usually molecular fragments called free radicals. The combustion products are excited to a very high temperature called the adiabatic flame temperature, that is the temperature before any heat has been transferred away from the combustion products. The temperature is usually much higher than the temperature of the air. So it goes into the whole explanation of it. And to me, it sounded almost like it's the same as incandescence, but it's just hotter, so it makes more light. So that was one of the other things I wanted to talk about, because we had talked about that. And I just, as I was watching some other folks' streams this afternoon, I came across the latest video from Star Talk. Are you folks familiar with Star Talk on YouTube? Well, he's all over. Let me find that here. Oh boy, I lost my. Let me bring that up here. That Star Talk channel on YouTube. He had a very interesting talk with a guy. So I'm changing subjects now. There it is. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, he has this thing called Star Talk. He's on YouTube. He's also on TV and a whole bunch of other stuff. But let me bring this up here. Well, let me give you a background on it first. He had a guy come on sometimes he invites people to come on his YouTube video stream thing, program, whatever. And he wanted to talk about gravity and specifically black holes. You folks are all familiar with black holes, right? Where there's so much matter and mass that it compresses down. Like if you imagine there's so much gravity that the ground itself was pushing down on itself and collapsing. That's what happens in a black hole. It gets so compressed that it all goes down. Well, they don't know for sure, but mathematically it all goes down to a single point. Huge masses, several times the mass of the sun. I forget how many. I think it's like 80 or something times the mass of the sun to get a black hole. Huge amounts of matter, and it compresses down to a tiny point. Mathematically, it compresses down to a point. We don't know what happens because you can't see into a black hole. But it gets there's so much gravity that nothing can escape from it. On Earth, we need rockets and stuff to get to escape from the Earth. And the more gravity there is, the more energy that you need to escape. And a black hole there's so much gravity in a black hole that even light can't escape from it. If you were standing on a black hole, you turned on a flashlight, which you couldn't do. Of course, you'd be dead if you were on a black hole. But if you turned on a flashlight, the light wouldn't even be able to escape. It would just come back down to the black hole. So they're kind of weird objects. Oh, you've heard of Neil deGrasse Tyson? Yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's very good. Science communicator, they call him. So he's very good at it, and he works. Where is he? He works at the Science Museum of New York, I think, or something like that. He's an astrophysicist, so he studies astronomy type stuff, and he's very good at explaining things for folks who are. Oh, I got to change my thing, don't I? Yeah. Oh, hi. Hi, Plato Democritus. Hi, first time chatter. Hi, thank you for joining the stream. I'm sorry I didn't update my my thing. We started out talking about involuntary. So I've got a chatter here who I'm talking to who just was asking me about this involuntary servitude thing that I have in my thing, in my title of my chat. And so he saw that and he wanted to find out what it was. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the stream. Basically, if you're familiar with the term involuntary servitude in the Constitution, it has to do with the 13th Amendment, which was when they got rid of slavery. And I got this census form. And involuntary servitude in the Constitution has been applied to other things besides slavery, but not very often. And I got this census form that had 50 pages of me to fill out for nothing, just taking my time to do that. Do you mean this really is a form of involuntary? No, I thought it would be. No, I'm not trying to compare it to slavery, of course, not at all. There are two parts of the 13th Amendment. One talks about getting rid of slavery. The other part has to do with involuntary servitude, which they think they put in there as a way to prevent the South from using loopholes to get around slavery, and instituting it again without using the word slavery. But it's been applied to a lot of different stuff, the draft, and they've tried to apply it to other stuff like the draft and certain contracts and things like that. So, I thought that would be an interesting case to take that to the Supreme Court. Of course, they wouldn't say they would say this is okay, that the government can force people to spend as much time as they want them to spend filling out forms. That's how they would rule today. But with a different Supreme Court, they might be able to interpret it that way and use that particular provision of that amendment for that purpose, I thought. Anyway, we discussed that earlier. You can look at my VODs. I have a VOD. This will be on YouTube afterwards. I'll put it up on YouTube pretty quickly, and you'll be able to see about that. Let's see. Plato says, I think you could make the case that all human life is a form of involuntary servitude. Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we're all slaves to our stomachs, aren't we? We have to somehow get food into our and do stuff to maintain our bodies. Yeah, that's a good philosophical point. Let me thank you, Plato, for letting me know about that, because I want to change that. I don't want people to more people to get confused about that. I'll update this to if I can figure out how to do that. If you folks can give me just a second here, and then we'll get on to the Star Trek Star Talk thing. This will just take me a second to change that title. If I can get this, there we go. Okay, I'll click on that. All right, what are we talking about here? I'm going to be talking about black holes and time. Let's see. Okay. I think I can do this midstream. I think I've seen people do this. I'm pretty sure I can change this title as I'm streaming. Oops. Okay, I think that's... Oh, I gotta change, get rid of that. Thank you for hanging with me here as I update my stream title here. All right, that's good enough, I think. There it says more science topics, black holes, time, science, news, history. Okay, I guess that's good enough. Thank you for pointing it out, Plato. All right, so we'll so this Star Talk is this is Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they were talking about black holes here. They had two astrophysicists on. They had one guy who was who's been around a long time and just has really knowledgeable and did papers and has a whole career and all that kind of stuff. And then they had one of his students. And I'm sorry, I don't have the name. Did they put the names of the guys here? Yeah, Gary O'Reilly, Oxford University. And then, let's see, around them with Steve. Oh, no, Gary O'Reilly is the co-host. That's right. And they had Steve Balbus, and theoretical physicist Andy Mummery, and I'm not sure which one is which. I think Andy is the maybe the second guy who came on. But anyway, at this point here, I thought it was kind of interesting that they were talking about, to kind of tie this into what we were talking about earlier about this electromagnetic radiation and all that, and light and the waves and all that kind of stuff. It turns out when you move matter around really fast and get it really hot, not only does it get into the visible range of waves, it gets beyond that. You've heard of ultraviolet radiation, right? You get up to blue and then violet, and then it goes past where we can even see with our eyes into ultraviolet. And there are different types of ultraviolet. There's A, B, and C. They kind of categorize them. And A is more or less safe. That's like a black light. It's the safest type, and least energetic. But then if you get it more and more energy into it, and higher and higher frequencies, then it gets into the kind that can give you sunburns and skin cancer and that kind of stuff. And then it turns out if you go even further past even more energy than even the highest ultraviolet, then it gets into what they call X-rays. You know X-rays, right? You go to the doctor, you get X-rays. Those are X-rays, and there's soft X-rays and hard X-rays, which is soft X-rays is the less energetic. Hard X-rays are more energetic. And so they were kind of talking about it, and they were talking to tie this into the black holes. What happens is, around a black hole, any object, it's just when they form, they always end up circling, rotating and stuff, like our solar system and everything. That's just what happens when stuff comes together like that. It just naturally rotates. And black holes do that too. When they first figured out black holes, they figured it out theoretically after Einstein did his general theory of relativity. Somebody came out with a solution to his equations for general relativity that predicted the black hole. And a lot of times that happens in science. They predict something based on math, and then they find it later on. And that's how black holes work. This is way back in the early part of the 20th century. A guy named Schwarzschild, I think, found a solution to Einstein's equations that predicted this phenomenon of the black hole that's just infinite, into a singularity. And so these guys are experts on that. These guys that he had on his Star Trek program. And what happens is around this black holes is that all this stuff is rotating around, and because there's so much gravity and so much energy and stuff like that, this stuff spins around really fast and bumps into each other and heats up to millions of degrees because of this, just because of gravity, and the stuff spinning around it. And when it gets that hot, then it emits light or electromagnetic radiation in this range of X-rays, because it's so powerful. It comes out as X-rays, and then the astronomers can look at those X-rays coming from, they point their telescopes at the black hole and look at the X-rays coming from it, and they can learn all kinds of different stuff from it. So I'll just play this short little clip here. I think this is where it was, and I hope it works. Whoops. I need to listen on my speaker here. I don't have headphones, unfortunately, yet. I actually have some here that I might be able to repair and make work. But all right, do we have? Oops, there we go. Okay, I think we've got the technicals here. All right, I'll play this and see if it works.
Point of no return that we all know about. Okay?
So the edge of the black hole, that's one. Then you can stably orbit on a circular orbit down to 3. So,
but not less than 3.
Not less than 3. It's the roundabout force. When you drive around a roundabout, you get pushed out. Okay, so that's what an orbit is. You balance that with gravity.
A roundabout would be a traffic circle.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Roundabout.
Yeah, this is
When you're here, you roundabout. When you're back home, traffic circle yourself silly.
All right, we got an ad here. All right, but it is coming. You are able to hear it anyway. So what they were talking about there was this stability of these orbits of this stuff that's going around a black hole, and for really complicated reasons that have to do with relativity and everything else, when something orbits close to the black hole, the orbit isn't stable. It can't maintain the orbit, and that's part of why it heats up like that. And that's what they were talking about there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find that section where they talk about the thing getting really hot. Let me look here really quick. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, here we go.
I did. All of us inside those unstable orbits, we knew they were unstable orbits. He certainly would have known there's unstable orbits because his middle name is General Relativity. Okay. He's co-author of like the most famous relativity book there ever was.
Okay.
It's called Gravitation.
Okay, they're talking about the form,
right, that's what the middle author there. But,
Yeah,
okay.
We'll talk
It's
about
a
X-ray.
Paper. He'll have a book.
He wanted that degree of time dilation difference and took some cinematic liberties to get it.
They're talking about the movie
Just
Interstellar.
it exists. It's a solution that's valid. It just won't
All
hang
right,
around.
we'll take the thorn out of your side for the moment.
The Kip Thorne out of my
Yes,
side?
thank
Yes.
you. You talked about we're finding new data coming in. Now, if you're a forensic accountant, follow the money, stupid.
Here it
You're
is.
going to find what it's all about. This, for me, is you being forensic, follow the data.
Yeah.
So what kind of data is coming in, and what are you able to kind of...
And what kind of telescopes? Yeah, coming to you as an astronomer, I want to know what I should point my
So
telescope.
what are your data sources? Is
Yeah.
it telescopes? Is it computational? Where are we headed?
So
to?
these are X-ray telescopes. So they're satellites in orbit.
X-ray telescopes.
Yeah.
And we're about to
So-
lose our last X-ray telescope, the
Yeah,
Chandra
well,
Great Observatory.
That's going to be a real.
It's going to get deorbited very
Yeah,
soon.
yeah.
I think.
There
Last I
will
heard.
be there will be others, but Chandra's a wonderful instrument.
Yes,
So
okay.
it's
Name for?
Chandrasekhar.
Chandrasekhar. Very
He
good.
knows.
Just checking in.
He knows.
I'm still a student.
Making
I'm allowed
darts.
to be like
and singing.
Professor Neil every now and then. Okay.
Okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. But they were talking about the X-ray. They're talking about the X-ray telescopes. In order to get these, the X-rays don't get through the atmosphere of Earth, right? If they did, we'd all fry. That's that's an important function of the atmosphere of Earth, is to protect us from stuff coming from space, cosmic rays, X-rays, gamma rays, all kinds of things that would be harmful to us, but the atmosphere blocks it. So in order for astronomers to see that stuff, they have to send telescopes up into space. Thank you, atmosphere. Definitely. Yeah, that it turns out it blocks. It lets the visible in, which is useful, but it blocks most of the ultraviolet. The ultraviolet A, it lets in some of that, but the B and the C, it hardly lets in any of that. That's the real bad stuff, and everything above that, the X-rays and the gamma rays, way above it. And then on the low side, it lets in some infrared, of course. That's why we feel warm from the sun, right? And there are other. It's not just a. It's when you look at a graph of what wavelengths it lets through. It's not just a smooth thing. There are certain niches and stuff like where it will let that stuff in, like from the sun or whatever. But anyway, X-rays, in order for astronomers to observe X-rays on these out in space like that, they have to have telescopes up in space. And apparently the last one, Chandra, I think is what they were talking about. I think that was the last one, is reaching the end of its life or whatever. So they need to figure out how to get money or whatever to put more X-ray telescopes up into space so they can make these kind of observations. Yeah, I couldn't find in the video. I thought it was at 28 actually, but that was something else. Anyway, so that's how they were able to confirm this. This guy did this all with paper and pencil, right? He figured this stuff out with equations and stuff like that, just figuring it out using his brain only, and said, okay, if Einstein's theories hold up, then this should happen. And when stuff moves so fast, it changes its characteristics and time and its mass and everything. And he figured this all out with equations that this material would heat up into the X-ray range, and then by looking at those X-rays, they can figure out that it's actually not stable. And that's what this guy's paper was on. This guy over here, I think his name is Andy Mummery. I hope that's the one. So he did a paper on it. He did a paper, and he's a young guy, right? So, and it was a big deal in science that he did this paper on the way that black holes. There's no way to have a stable orbit close to the black hole. And the reason why they tied it back into Interstellar was, if you're familiar with the film Interstellar, they went to this planet called Gargantua or something like that, or there's a planet orbiting Gargantua or something. It was a planet that was orbiting a black hole, and a huge part of the plot of the film. This is a spoiler. If anybody, we're doing a spoiler here. There we go. Spoilers. Talking about. So in Interstellar, there's a section, a point in that film where they go to this planet that is orbiting a black hole, and they put their little spaceship around that planet, and then they go down to it. They put their spaceship away from the black hole, and then they travel down to this planet, which is near the black hole, and do some stuff, and then come back. And because of one of the effects of gravity is that wait, what do I gotta? What? Oh, what? Am I going to? One of the effects of gravity is that when especially when you have a lot of gravity, is that it slows down time. Because you said spoilers. Oh, yes, the spoiler is I was talking about Interstellar. The movie Interstellar, there's a spoiler, and the spoiler is, ready? If you haven't seen Interstellar, everybody's seen it, right? If you're watching this stream, you probably have seen it. But in Interstellar, they go from a place where there's less gravity, and they go down to this planet which is near the black hole, which has a lot more gravity. And one of the predictions of general relativity is that in areas of space where there is more gravity, time runs more slowly for an outside observer looking at somebody at inside that gravity well, they call it. Which is weird, right? So time doesn't run the same speed for everybody. And you see this in science fiction movies all the time. If they travel fast or accelerate, or if they're in a place where there's more gravity, time will run slower for that person, for an observer on the outside. For the person who actually goes down to the planet where there is more gravity, to them everything seems okay. But they're actually running in slow motion compared to the people up and way away from the gravity that would be looking at them. And so in Interstellar, they had 3 astronauts. 2 of them, they had 4 astronauts. 3 of them went down to the planet where there was more gravity, and they knew that time would be running slower for them compared to the astronaut that was left back at their mothership. And it turned out that they went down to the planet and only spent half hour, an hour or whatever, and then went back to the ship. And it turned out for the guy who stayed in the mothership, he experienced like 20 years or something like that compared to them, because of the difference in the way that time works in a gravity well like that. And so they were talking about that. That's how they tied it into this whole thing. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he said he was going to figure it out, because they gave enough information in the film to determine the difference, right? They said 20 years and it was 1 year, whatever. He knew what the difference was, and he was going to try to work it backwards with the equations. And then he decided, I guess, that he would invite these other guys on and talk about their papers, but ask them about it. And it turns out that, as in most things in Hollywood, it's not possible. What they did was not possible, because they would have to be orbiting so close to the black hole in order to have that much gravity that would cause their time to slow down that much, that they would be beyond the point where you could have a stable orbit, which is what that guy did his paper on. So that's what ties it. That's what ties it all together. So anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. I know it's just cool that they tied in this guy's science paper with Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. And the reason they're talking about Kip Thorne was he's like the expert on gravity and black holes and all that, and he was a consultant on that film. And so they were wondering what, did he know this, did he know about this issue with the movie, and they suspect that he did, and they just let it go, because otherwise they wouldn't have a plot, right, if they weren't able to do that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, some of that might be kind of complicated for folks who are not scientific, who are not science people, but that's kind of the way it works. Time is not just a fixed thing, and it's really hard to really get your mind around. There's certain things that just, like you may have heard that the GPS satellites that we use for global positioning, time is weird. Yeah, it's the global positioning satellites, because of where they orbit at, I think, middle, not low Earth orbit, but middle. They're not geosynchronous, and they're not low Earth orbit. They're in the middle somewhere. And it turns out that they're far enough away from the Earth that they have less gravity, and their time is different. Their time goes a little bit faster than us here on Earth, and so they have to make adjustments to their clocks on the GPS satellites because of that, which was kind of interesting. It's another thing that proves relativity, Einstein's general relativity. Also, the big thing that they did. Well, there are a couple things. Oh, you know what? There's a little movie. Since we're talking about this, that's okay. We can go down this rabbit hole, right? I found a film that actually talks about this very subject. The way that one of the things that they found out was that gravity causes space to curve. It's not so much that it's a force that attracts things together, is that it curves space, which is kind of it's hard to understand, but we think of ordinary space as just 3 dimensions, and everything works out evenly all directions. But when you're in a area of gravity, it's simply curved space. That's why things go in orbit around the Earth. It's not that the things are being pulled in, which you can think of it that way, and you can do some of the classical math that way. But what's actually happening is that the spaceship is going straight. It's traveling straight through space, but the space is curved so that it causes them to go that way. And it's hard to get your head around. It takes a long time to understand it. But that's what happens. It's curved space is what's going on. And they actually proved this. Einstein came up with that idea. And when he came up with it, it just blew everybody's mind, right? He did a lot of stuff that blew people's minds. But when he came up with, it's mind-boggling. It is. And it's hard to understand. I've been studying this for a long time, and it's just, every time somebody comes up with a new video or something to explain it, I try to watch it just to get a different perspective and another way to understand it. But one of the things that they did to prove this was they said, okay, if it's curved space, that means that everything that travels through that space will curve, including light. So they thought, well, if you find something really massive, and the sun is the most massive thing we got close by, and they thought if you could look at the stars, behind the sun, they should be in a different place than they are when the sun isn't there. You know what I mean? It's like you look up at the stars, and you figure out exactly where all the stars are, and then later on in the season, when the sun is in that part of the sky, then those stars should be at different positions, because the light coming from them would be curved. And but you can't. The problem is that you can't look at when the sun's out. You can't look at the stars, right? The sun gets in the atmosphere, and you can't see the stars when the sun's glaring like that. So what they thought, oh wait, there's an eclipse coming up, right? When the eclipse comes, the moon will get in the way of the sun, and then we'll be able to see the stars behind the sun and see if they shift. And it turns out that they did. So let me see if I can find. There's a cool video on that explains that. A cool little. It's actually a film. It's not a video. It's a film. But I want to play that because it's okay. I gotta pull up see if I can find it here. It'll take me a second to find this. I wasn't planning on doing this at all. Oops. Oh boy. Library. All right. Are we still going here? Let me make sure I'm. Yeah. Okay. All right. This will take me a second here to find this. No, that's not it. Yeah, I found this collection of videos. It's called the Perlinger collection or something like that. Perlinger or something. And one of them just happened to be about this discovery, this grand experiment that they did that actually helped prove Einstein's general relativity. Here's some other things. Master. Moon travel, shrinking. Okay, let's see. Oh boy, I hope I can find it. Television. Solar terrestrial radiation. No, that's not it. Let's see. Fallout. Yeah, I grabbed a whole bunch of these things because they're almost all of them are in the public domain. And I've been having trouble finding public domain films to show. I tried. I did some movie reviews and played little clips, and talked about them and stuff. And YouTube, I put them up on YouTube, and then was it Disney? I think it was said no, you can't do that. And of course you can. That's the law says I can do that, but they're just being idiots, So I thought, well, I'll just go to public domain, just strictly public domain stuff. Let's see here. Trip to the planets. God, I got a whole bunch of them here. Quiet Revolution Forward, Science. Okay, that's an old one. Well, I can't find the one that I wanted to show, but here's an interesting one, actually. Let me play this one. Let's see here. This is not the one I was looking for, but it's kind of on the same subject that we were talking about. Talking about time, This is on special relativity instead of general relativity, but it still has to do with time and stuff like that. So I'll put this one up. All right, I'm sorry this is taking a second here to get this. I'm having technical issues and all kinds of things here, but I'll get this in just a second. Hang with me. It's kind of it's a cool little movie. All right, let's see here. There it is. Okay. All right. So what this is this was a film that was made a long time ago, but it was made shortly after Einstein made his discoveries. He came out with this stuff about relativity. And this is from the Prelinger collection. This was made in 1923. So this is before there was sound on film or anything. So I'll play this little thing. There's no sound at all. Maybe I'll read the little titles and stuff in it. Okay, here we go. Let's bring it up here. Oh, we don't have spoilers anymore. Let me get rid of that. All right. All right, I'll play this here, and then we'll talk about it. Now, some of the things that are presented in this little film are not correct. They're just flat out factually wrong, and I'll explain that later. But it's fun to watch this, and it's just as I said, it's another way of looking at this whole relativity thing. So I'll play it here. All right, those titles moving like that is just a defect in the film. Okay, so this is a bullet, 33 miles per minute. Earth is traveling 1,100 miles per minute. In space, the Earth would rush past the bullet so quickly that something. And so and they show a little graphic of it. Well then, is the Earth fast? Yes and no. Compare it with other planets. The Earth is the third from the sun. Oh, I'm just gonna stop this just for a second and adjust it, because I've got a setting here that is clipping part of it, and I want to actually fix that if I can. All right. It was clipping some of the frame of the film, so I'm gonna. So realize this is 100 years ago. This thing was made. And then we'll do transition, I guess. Okay, I don't know. That still looks like it's clipping it, but. Fast or slow has no absolute meaning. Speed is relative, they said. But there is one speed that is not relative, the speed of light, always 186,000 miles per second. That's approximately, of course. This surprising independence of the speed of light may be illustrated as follows. Oh, this is interesting. So they got two pistols on this spinning wheel. The two pistols will be discharged at the same instant while the wheel spins. This is a bizarre experiment that they have here. So one of the pistols was going. Let me explain this because it's not very clear in there. So this is spinning like this, and one of the pistols, when they discharge them, they discharge it with one pistol on top and one pistol on the bottom. And this pistol on top is moving this towards the target. This pistol on the bottom is moving away from the target, but they're both their muzzles are pointed towards the target, see? So you try to figure out, okay, if this one's moving towards the target, this one's moving away from the target, then this bullet will be going faster and get to the target sooner. That's what they're trying to do there. It wasn't very clear by what they were saying there. If this experiment were slowed up, we would see the light flashes racing ahead of the bullets. Oh, there they go. They're showing it now. It's clipped off in this video for some reason. God, you know what? That's not even showing up properly. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm having technical difficulties here with this, but I can't get that to get rid of those. It's cutting off part of it. Yeah, it's cutting off the top and bottom of the video for some reason, and I can't get it to not do that. Sorry about that. Have to figure that out later, I guess. Okay. Note that the upper bullet discharged with the turn of the wheel moves faster than the lower one, which I just said. Okay, fired against the turn of the wheel. Right. So it's. So this is how they explained it, like within a decade after he came out with it, when they were first hearing about this. Though the bullets travel with different speeds, both flashes of light travel with the same speed. Okay. I mean the flashes of the gunpowder, in the bullet. Those are flashes of light traveling. There's one above there that's clipped off at the very top. That's clipped off of this video that you can't see very well. It says the spinning wheel quickens the speed of the upper bullet and slows down that of the lower, but does not affect the speed of the light flashes. I'm going to try something here real quick. I'm going to see if I can fix this actually. Alright, this will just take just a second here. Sorry about these technical things here. Alright. Yeah, it's still cutting it off here for some reason. Oh, there we go. Okay, I just needed to adjust it here. Hey, alright, I figured it out. There we go. Now we should be able to see a little bit better. I'm going to back that up a little bit so we can see it. There we go. That's a little bit better. You can see that better now, right? Okay, so it says, though the bullets travel with different speeds, both flashes of light travel with the same speed. Right, so they're talking about the bullets traveling and then the flashes of the light from the gunpowder when the bullets go off. Those are supposed to be photons, I think, or something. Those are the flashes of light traveling. See, this whole thing, they're trying to explain that the bullets travel at different speeds, but light always travels at the same speed, even though the top gun, the gun at the top of the wheel was moving towards the target, and the one at the bottom was moving away from the target. The light from both of them still go at the same speed. You don't add the speeds up like you do with, bullets fired from cars or something or whatever. So that just shows that the two bullets are arriving at different speeds. Okay, firing at the moon. Okay, carry the demonstration of the small spinning wheel out into space and apply it to our big spinning wheel, the Earth. Okay. So there are a lot of problems with that, right? You can't fire a bullet from Earth like that. Both bullets discharge with the same force, it says. Speed of upper 2980 miles per hour. Speed of lower 980 miles per hour. Because the Earth's speed of rotation, 1,000 miles per hour, is added to the upper bullet and subtracted from the lower. Now you can't do that. You can't actually do this because you can't fire a bullet from the Earth. The gravity would pull it back. So this demonstration is ignoring gravity, apparently. Lower bullet arrives 165 hours after the upper. Experimenting with this unchanging speed of light, Einstein shows that time is not the same in different places. Okay, so they're trying to explain how Einstein came up with his special theory of relativity. Two towers flash signals at the same time to a balloonist and to a man on the ground. So up on top there is the balloon. Can you see that? And then the guy in the bottom there. So there's a guy in the bottom. Two towers, the balloon, and they flash the lights. This explains very concisely the special theory of relativity. The observer on the ground says that the signals were given from both towers at the same time. But part of special relativity. There's another step after this. I don't think they get into it here. Light rays from both towers are the same length. But the balloonist insists that one tower signaled before the other. The light rays from the right tower require a longer period. Yeah, there's another sentence on the bottom of it that's cut off on the original that I can't read. Time is relative. It stretches and shrinks. Or in our Earth language, an hour for us may be a century on another planet and vice versa. That's too much of a difference. It would be like that. We have seen that motion is relative, direction is relative, size is relative, and speed is relative. Time is relative. All measurement is relative, it says. One by one, Einstein sweeps away every accepted notion. For instance, he makes the astounding assertion that space is bent. Yeah, I spoke about that earlier. This is the idea which Einstein said only 12 men in the world could understand. So don't feel so bad if you didn't understand what I was talking about earlier. Now a lot of people, most scientists understand it now. But back then it was new, really different. It was hard for people to even understand it all. He claims that light, which was supposed to travel in a straight line, is bent when it passes through space near a big body like the sun. Okay, this is the part I was explaining with the stars in the background behind the sun. That's up that thing up here. This is a star right here. That's a far away. That's a star. It's supposed to be a star. Single light ray would be used for this illustration. Okay. Notice how the bent light ray causes the telescope to be wrongly directed as regards the star's actual position. The observer on Earth sees the star here. The nearer the sun, the more the light rays bend. They mean that the nearer the light rays are to the sun, the more they bend. That's what they meant to say there. Looking at the star at different times, we see it in different positions. Oh, during the eclipse of, yeah, this is where they're talking about the eclipse and how the how that experiment was carried out. The black crosses indicate the positions where the stars were expected to appear, according to the old theory, classical theory, right before Einstein talked about his general theory of relativity. There it is. So they're showing the eclipse happening, and then the stars are visible. Note the difference between the black crosses where the stars were expected to appear and the actual position of the stars as predicted by Einstein. Yeah. So they actually did that. It was a real big deal when they did this too, back in 1919. Is that what they said? All our lives we have been taught to measure things in 3 dimensions, but Einstein adds a 4th. Yeah, Einstein didn't add it. There were other guys before him who did that, I think. Time. That's what we call space-time. It's 4 dimensions. He says there is not only right and left, up and down, backward and forward, but also sooner and later, the 4th dimension, without which nothing in the universe can be measured or described. This theory has opened an unlimited field for speculations, dreams, and fantasies. Let our imagination again carry us out into space. We will see the years leaving the Earth with the speed of light. Okay, this is totally wrong what they're describing here, but it's fun to just watch it anyway. It's completely wrong scientifically. It's wrong. A man is shot from the Earth to overtake the speeding years. What's wrong here is that they're saying the years, they're meaning, light or whatever is leaving the Earth at those times. So the further away you get from Earth, you're looking at Earth in the past, is what they're trying to say here. but you can't travel. It says racing forward at tremendous speed, he flies backward through the centuries. He can't do that because that speed he would have to travel would be faster than the speed of light. He looks behind and finds his former past is now his future. Right? Those years are moving away from the earth at the speed of light. So Columbus is now in the act of discovering America. No, Columbus did not discover America. Eric the Viking discovered America. What does it all mean to us? It may be the beginning of a civilization as different from ours as ours is different from that of the cave-dwelling ancestors. Yeah, so back then it was a big deal, right? Contemporaneously when he discovered it. And so sitting in a quiet little study in Princeton University sits this genius delving deeper into the mysteries of the universe. Okay. Yay. All right. Yay. 1923. Let me catch up on chat here. See what reactions we got to that. Okay, time is weird. My mind's boggled. Copyright is tricky stuff. Yeah, I talked about that. I've talked about that on my streams multiple times, giving my opinion, bloviating about that. Yeah. Eram Catgun. Oh, okay. Catgun. Yeah. So that part that where they're showing the years moving away from the earth, what that is yeah, they were really smart. That was 100 years ago. They had this figured out. And you think about what, that time, this is like they were just getting light bulbs installed in people's, this is before sound and on the film, everything was shot on film. It's quite different. Communication was mostly telegraph. Not everybody had telephones. Most people didn't, I think, back in the 20s. I don't think most people had phones at that time. Maybe they did. But it was, quite different. So where they were showing those years moving away from the earth, might as well put that up here. I want to explain that again because it's kind of weird that they were showing that. Okay, here we go. So they're showing the years moving away from Earth, and what's going on there is that. There we go. It's not the years that are moving away from Earth. It's the light. The light on Earth. Stuff that's happening on Earth, or radio waves, anything. When physicists use the word light, they mean any electromagnetic radiation. It's not just visible. So anything that's emanating from the Earth, or visible light or radio waves or anything, goes out into space. So that somebody who is, maybe on a planet that's 100 light years away is going to see what the Earth looked like 100 years ago. That's how that works. Because light has a speed. It doesn't travel instantly. It takes time for it to travel. And things that are far away, it takes a long time for the light to get there. So like, suppose there was, what is it, Vega, I think is, 60 or something light years away? So they measure it that way. They measure the distance to the stars by light years. A light year is how far a beam of light will travel in a whole year. So if you imagine how fast light goes 300,000 kilometers per second. 186,000 miles per hour. That's really fast. So it's a long distance. A light year, the distance that light can travel in a year is a long distance. And so what they're showing here, they said the years are leaving. What they're meaning is the light is, and you know, it might be that this is such a new concept that people didn't totally understand it, you know. This is science communicators 100 years ago, you know. You think they're bad on YouTube, right? We all make mistakes when we try to explain this stuff. So anyway, the light is leaving the earth. That's what that's showing there, is that the light is leaving earth, not the years. But they're saying like the light left the earth, and this is, of course, is not the scale. In 1921, the light would be here, and in 1920, that's 2 years, it would be out here. In 1922, the light is just leaving, and so it's here. See what I'm saying? So they're saying the years are moving. And then they said that somebody on a spaceship would take off and catch up to it. They couldn't do that because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. So that was totally wrong with what they were talking about. But there is the concept of, you know, if there are intelligent life out there on a planet going around a star that's, you know, like I said, 60 light years away, then they're looking back at Earth and seeing what we looked like 60 years ago. Because the light that left the Earth takes 60 years to get there. And in the verse, it's the same. When astronauts or astronomers look up at the sky, they're looking at the past. When they look at a star that's 1,000 light years away, they're looking at that star as it looked 1,000 years ago. And that whole concept, you know, they were trying to explain it with those towers and that balloon and all that. One of the aspects of that is that there is no simultaneity. You know, there's nothing called. You can't say that two things happen at the same time if they're separated by space. Because of that, that's really mind-boggling. But that's. So yeah, actually, if you looked at, so this movie was made in 1923. Is that what they said? 1923. So yeah, well, they weren't able to broadcast it at that time. But if somebody was watching this movie here on Earth and it was visible up in space for some reason, back in 1923 when they first made it, then aliens on a planet 101 light years away could watch this movie as it was, you know, the first run, the first run in the theaters or whatever, you know. It's funny. It's but yeah, that's how it works. Astronomers are so they're looking at the past all the time. And there's an object up in the sky, really, since we're going down all kinds of rabbit holes here and not really staying in any particular subject. But if up in the night sky, there's an object that you can see with your naked eye. It's called the Andromeda Galaxy. And it's pretty easy to find, actually. Maybe one day I'll explain it. Or actually, there are astronomer streamers on here that probably talk about it at some point. But it's a galaxy, and a galaxy, like we're in the Milky Way galaxy. Galaxy is we have our sun. That's a star, and it has a solar system around it. And then there are other stars that we see up in the sky, and a lot that we don't see, and there are like 100,000 or more in our Milky Way universe. And they're all going around the galactic center, which probably has a giant black hole in the middle of it. And you see them with these big spiral arms and stuff like that. And that we can actually see with our eyes, without a telescope or binoculars or anything. We can look up there and see a galaxy up in the sky that is 2.2, I think 2.3 or 2.5, something like that, million light years away. So you think about that. The light that we see from that galaxy left that galaxy before humans even evolved on Earth. That's how long ago that light left that galaxy. And it's been traveling all that time through space. And then it finally gets down here, and then we can see it with our own naked eye. I think that's just so amazing. Yeah, and now, and of course now they've got telescopes up in space that can see billions of years ago. What the universe looked like billions of years ago, and that's how they, cosmologists and stuff like that can study all those things. Is that they can actually look into the past and see what the universe was a long time ago by looking at things that are so far away. And one of the limiting factors on that, though, is that the universe is expanding. You've probably heard that before. You've heard about the Big Bang, right? And space is expanding. Space is getting bigger, and every point in space is getting further away from other points in space at a rate that Hubble figured out. He called it the Hubble constant. I've got something going on here. All right. I gotta check something out here. Hang on just a second. Yeah, I think my neighbor I have a fan in the window, and my neighbor decided to light up his. It's kind of cold out here. I've got my got my hoodie on and everything. It was kind of cool today. So it's 8 o'clock, so it started cooling down. My neighbor decided to turn on his fireplace, and that, and so my fan was blowing in the smoke, so it kind of smelled in here. I thought maybe I had a fire going on here or something, but that's all it was. So I had to go shut the fan off. So yeah, one of the cool things about that whole idea of looking at the past, there's a limit to that. You think if we got telescopes that were big enough, we could look all the way back to the beginning, right? You would think. Doesn't that make sense if you could do that? But it turns out that you can't do that. Let me adjust my camera here. For some reason I went out of focus when I got up. Focus. Okay. I think it's got it. So you would think that if that was the case, if you could, the further away you look, the more in the past you can see. You'd think that we would be able to see all the way back to the beginning and actually look at the Big Bang. But we can't. And one of the limiting reasons for that is that because the space is expanding, and it expands at different rates. At the very beginning, they believe it expanded very rapidly. In a period they called inflation, where it just really expanded very quickly, and then it expanded at what they thought was a constant rate, but now they think that it's actually speeding up. The expansion is speeding up, and one of the consequences of that is that if you think they're two different points in space, the more space that's between them, the further away, the more quickly they're moving away from each other, because if all points in space are moving away from each other all the time, then the further away two different objects are in space, the faster they are moving away from each other. And Hubble, which was an astronomer a while ago, figured that all out, and he noticed that something called redshift, when objects are moving away from each other, it causes the light waves to shift into the red. It's kind of complicated, but it changes the wavelength of the light. So the further away that you look at something, the lower the wavelength. And it actually, when you're looking at these things billions of miles away, a lot of that light that they're seeing is in the infrared, because it's shifted out of the visible range. But the consequence of that whole process is that objects that are really far away, the expansion is happening so fast that at some point the space between the 2 points is expanding so fast that it's faster than the speed of light. And that's the limit on light. You say, well, wait a second, there's a speed limit on light. You can't go faster than the speed of light. But that's the speed of light traveling through space. That's the speed that light travels through space. What we're talking about here is the expansion of space itself. So that there's a limit. Once you get points in space that are so far away that the space between them is causing them to expand away from each other faster than the speed of light, then they will never be able to see each other. And there's a name for that I don't remember right now. But that's a limit, so we can't see all the way back. There's another reason why we can't see all the way back to the Big Bang, but that's kind of a major reason why we can only see so far back. The other reason, of course, is that they believe that after the Big Bang, the density of matter in the universe was so much that light couldn't even get out of it. So there was no light. So the universe was dark up until a certain point until matter started to form, the first atoms started to form, and then light was able to penetrate through them. And that light that they are able to see at that point, the first light that they are able to see, is shifted so far that it shifted not only into the infrared, but it shifted from the visible through the infrared all the way into radio waves, microwaves, the higher frequency radio waves, called microwaves. And they have a specific name for that. They call it the cosmic microwave background, CMB, cosmic microwave background radiation. They discovered that in the 60s. They theorized it before that, but in the 60s, these guys discovered it kind of accidentally. They were studying something else, and they had a huge microwave antenna that they had, and they had this noise that they couldn't get rid of, and no matter where they pointed it, they had this noise background, and apparently they contacted somebody and they figured out, hey, wait, that's this theoretical thing that we were thinking about, that we're trying to figure out. And they weren't actually looking for it, but they discovered it, and it was a big deal. Maybe one of these days I'll do that. I'll do a stream where I actually show we'll detect the cosmic microwave background right here, and I'll do it as an experiment. That would be something that people might be interested in, I bet. It won't be that. I could talk about it, but it won't be that big of a dramatic experiment. It would just be a detection thing. But so, what else was there that I wanted to talk about here? We talked about X-rays. Time we talked about a little bit. One of these days I'll do a stream on time. And there's a thing called the problem of time, and it's just because it's almost a philosophical question. What is time? It's if you ask somebody, and scientists don't know, they don't agree on what time is. All they know is that, okay, we can make clocks, and we can make clocks that are really accurate, and we can compare what those clocks are doing to what we observe, and that's it. Other than that, they don't know. And the other thing is, they say, well, time goes forward. For some reason, time seems they call it the arrow of time. Time only goes forward; it only goes into the future. Things in the past cause things in the future, not the other way around. And, mathematically, a lot of theories that they have, the major theories they have, don't account for that. The theories will work just as well forward or backwards, so they don't. It's like, why? Why is that? Why does time only go in one direction? Why does it only go forward? Why are things in the future caused by things in the past? Anyway. I'll do some reading up on that, and I'll do a whole stream on that at some point, maybe, because it's just a fascinating topic, And when you get down, I talked about the Planck constant in one of my earlier streams, which is kind of a highly technical thing, but it's when you get down to the smaller scale, there's a point called Planck time, which they think is the smallest increment of time that there is. We talked about the Planck constant, which was had to do with that incandescence. Remember I talked about incandescence before? There was a big problem with that, and I have an earlier stream on that. But the solution to the problem that they had with that incandescence was this Planck constant, and that constant, once the Planck figured that out, it led to all kinds of things. It launched quantum mechanics. It did it was a huge thing, and a lot of people never even heard of that before. What's Planck constant? What is that? A lot of people never even heard of that before, but it's like launched all of quantum physics. That was the beginning of it. And another consequence of that Planck constant is once you got that figured out, you can figure out increments of energy. You can figure out increments of once you figure out increments of energy, you can figure out wavelengths. Once you figure out wavelengths, you've got distance. You get a Planck distance, and when you got a distance, then you can have the speed of light traveling that distance. It takes a certain amount of time, and that's a Planck time. So it's the lowest increment of time that they can conceptualize. It's like what happens, if time is comes in increments like that. What the heck does that mean? It's really just mind-boggling. So let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to talk about here. Oh yeah, there was something I wanted to mention. I did I played a movie that's a Creative Commons movie called Star Wreck a couple times ago, maybe a week ago or something like that. Last Saturday, I think it was. Let me see if I can pull that up on here. This is just something I just wanted to mention because it was. Oh no, that's not it. Okay, I gotta launch another thing here. I'm gonna bring this up really quick just so I have something on the screen here that I can reference and talk when I'm talking about this. This movie's called Star Wreck. It's supposed to be a comedy. I didn't think it was very funny, but some people thought it was. All right, let's see if I can bring that up here. Okay, it's not going to work. Try harder. There we go. Okay, that might work. That's pretty close. Okay, I don't care if that goes out. All right. So this is the Wikipedia page on that movie. So the reason I played it was because I can't play stuff that has copyrights, and there's a limited number of things that are in the public domain that just are, like that movie we just watched from 1923. That's in the public domain because it's so old. This Star Wreck movie is in the public domain because the producers put it out. It's not in the public domain, but it's in. It has a Creative Commons license, which allows people to, display it or, play the video on their streams or whatever. As long as they don't make any money on it, and as long as they don't modify it. Those were the conditions they had on their license. So anyway, I thought, well, great, okay, I can play a movie, and which I was having trouble finding. So I did this, and it was just a weird kind of movie, and one of the points I wanted to make about it. First of all, it was in Finnish, so in Finland, and so we couldn't understand what they were saying. We had to read subtitles, and I have dyslexia, so I had trouble reading it. I didn't read it out loud, but I read it to everybody who watched. We all read it, and so that was kind of made it difficult. And then the other thing was it was kind of like they got into this whole thing. It was about authoritarianism, and it was just the protagonist was an authoritarian emperor, which apparently they thought was kind of funny. I didn't think it was funny, but the guys who made this thing, apparently one of them or a couple of them or whatever, went and did another thing called Iron Sky or something like that. They did another movie. Let's see if I can find that here. But that other movie they did kind of revealed a little bit about where they were coming from. The movie had lots of problems. It was kind of not very nice to women, and there were no black people at all in the film. It was all white. The whole movie had a huge cast, and they were all white, and so that made me question what was going on. God, I don't think. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I think it was this guy or this guy. I don't remember which one it was. Let me bring up his page here. Iron Sky. There it is. So they did this other movie. At least one of them. With some other people. This one was apparently not released as a Creative Commons license. But it got a lot of flack because it was about Nazis, and but Nazis survived at the end of World War II, and they went to the moon, right, in the 1940s, established a moon base on the far side of the moon, and it's just like, what are you doing, guys? It was just very sus, So anyway, I wanted to put that out there because I didn't. When I picked it and showed it last Saturday, I wasn't aware of any of this. And after I saw the movie, I kind of questioned what was going on, and then they came out with this film. So probably won't be showing that one again or other stuff from these guys. So. So that was another thing that I wanted to put out there. I'll try to correct stuff or just fill in stuff that didn't, it's a live this is all done live, contemporaneous, I don't have that much planned out when I'm doing it. So I just wanted to, I always, if I remember to, I try to go back and correct things that I did or whatever, statements that I made, all that. So let me check one more thing here. We got here 8:30. There was something else that I wanted to go over, but it wouldn't be appropriate for this stream where we're at right now. Okay. All right, so I guess that's it for today. Make sure I'm still on here. Yep. Okay. All right, so how long was my stream here? This was a long time, wasn't it? They don't keep a counter here, but this is a long stream. I think I started around 6 or something like that. So I think I've been on for at least 2 hours. maybe longer, 2 or 3 hours, something like that. All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming to the stream, and hope it wasn't too technical, and hope we could, hope it made sense. I hope I explained it enough, and tried to make things, accessible as much as I could. And I guess that's it. So, so we covered a whole bunch of different stuff. At the beginning, I talked about the census, and then we got into a science stream, and I changed the title of the stream, and we went in and made it into a science stream and talked about a bunch of science stuff. So we did a lot today. So if you think this is any of the stuff that I talked about, thank you, Peekaboo. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking through it. I know some of it is kind of difficult, and my communication style is a little bit difficult to watch sometimes. So I appreciate everybody coming here. We're going to, I'm going to sign off now. So if you like the stuff that I do, if you're watching this on the VOD and you thought any of this stuff was interesting, or you might want to see some of the things that I do, go to Twitch and follow Double Tribble on Twitch. Let's see. Peekaboo says, LOL, only understood about half, but still pretty interesting. Yeah, okay. I'll try harder. I'll try harder. Right? Okay. Yeah, it's hard to get a lot of it, and it's hard to know where folks are at. How far you need to go to explain and all that. But appreciate coming to the stream. So all right, so we'll take off now. Don't forget to hit the follow. Blah blah blah. I'm also on YouTube, and pretty soon I think I'm going to be at another archive site that doesn't censor my videos like YouTube does. So I'll post that in my about page on Twitch, where exactly that will be. So thank you for coming. Everybody take care. Don't forget to wear your N95 mask. Bye-bye.
All right, here we go. First thing we climb a tree, and maybe then we talk, or sit silently and listen to our thoughts, illusion to someday, cast in a golden light, no dress rehearsal, this is our life. And that's where the hornet stung me, and I had a feverish dream with revenge and doubt. Tonight we smoke them out. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. There in the morning shroud, and then the day began. I tilted your cloud, you tilted my hand. Rain falls in real time, and rain fell through the night. No dress rehearsal, this is our life. Well, that's when the hornet stung me, and I had a serious dream with revenge and doubt. Tonight we smoke them out. You are ahead by a century. 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 And disappointing you is getting me down. Hydrate or drive, absolutely. That is good. Dihydrogen oxide. That is very, very good. Dihydrogen oxide.